welcome to the video to talk all about how to make your night sky coaster. We're really excited about this coaster. It's got a fun motion to it, and it's kind of a backwards planetary gear set. We think you're really going to enjoy it. So let's take a look on the inside of your box and see what's here. I'm going to slide the label off for the outside first, and you'll notice that it's got a sticker on it, and I'll cut that sticker and then we'll take a look inside. I'm assuming you already done this to get to the URL for the videos. But here's what you'll have inside. On the top are some hints and tips and tricks. Take a look at those. They've got a link to our techniques video. We want to make sure if you're not familiar with building these kits that you're familiar with some of the things you'll need to know as you do it. We've also got a card in here with a list of the pieces and parts that are in your coaster, and we'll take a look at those pieces and parts next. Let's take a look inside the Kinetic Night Sky coaster box to see what the pieces and parts are that came along with it. You'll notice you've got a set of gears and some hardware. We'll come back to those in a minute. And I'm just going to grab the stack of all of the pieces of wood out at once. On the bottom, you'll see an extra circle of wood. That's just a piece of scrap wood for you to use however you need to. Usually you'll want to check and make sure that your pins or art supplies look like you expect them to on your wood. And then I'm going to work from the bottom of the stack forward this time. So first you'll have a really thin ring of wood. Be a little gentle with it and set it on the side. And a piece of plastic that's got paper on both sides of it. That's our acrylic top for our coaster. I'm going to set it on the side. And now we'll start to look at the inside of our coaster. So this is our bottom. You'll notice it has 4 big holes in it. And the bottom that you'll see is actually this one with the smaller holes. We're going to inset the nuts here so that we can protect your table. And then you'll have an analyst layer. An analyst on a planetary coaster, and this is one of those, allows us to have the additional gears go around it. So I'm going to start by opening up my bag of gears. And what you'll notice is that you'll have 3 small gears, a sun and a moon and a stars, and 2 big gears that we're actually going to fasten together. And then we'll take our 3 little gears and put them spaced out around the outside. Like so. And then I'm going to put this thick ring on top of that as a spacer. And we'll set this on the very top. I'm feeling compelled to put it the right direction to you, like so you can see the various pieces in your coaster itself. Finally, we're going to add a thick ring and a thin ring to form the coaster itself. This piece of acrylic will go in the thin ring, but we'll peel the paper off first so you can see through it, and this will go on top. So if we're talking about what you need to do to prepare the pieces to do your build, you're going to want to start with sanding. From a sanding perspective, it's all about touch. So anything that somebody will touch needs to be sanded. That's the top and the bottom. But you're also going to want to sand the things that rub against each other. So these 3 bottom layers, well, these 2 bottom layers, are actually going to get glued together. And then this entire top stack, including the analyst, will get glued together. That means these 2 layers, this and this, are going to spin against each other. And you need to make sure those are really smooth. And you need to make sure this center area, where your 2 big gears will get glued, are also smooth, and the rest of this bottom surface as well. Beyond that, how much finishing you do on the pieces themselves is completely up to you. Be gentle with the pieces, particularly with this one. In terms of decorating, you've now seen what the stack looks like, and you can decorate it however you want to. You have oh so many choices. Take a look at the techniques videos for more suggestions. And then, once you've sanded and decorated the pieces, come back to the video and I'll walk you through the process of actually installing and assembling your coaster. Now that you've decorated the pieces, and I'm sure you've done an awesome job with that, let's go through the process of actually assembling your coaster. And we're going to start with this bottom layer here and the pieces attached to the bottom layer. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to glue these two gears together to make one thick stack. And I'm going to do my best to line them up. I want to make sure that center hole is lined up perfectly. If you've already opened your screw kit, you can put one of the screws through the middle to make sure they stay lined up perfectly. It makes a big difference if you do that. And I'm going to glue those two layers together like so. And then I'm going to set that aside. In my hardware kit, in addition to that one 5/8" screw, I should find 3 3/8" screws, 4 nuts, and 4 feet. So let's start with the assembling of these gears themselves and these geared pieces themselves that are going to go together. And I'm going to start with these 3 outside holes. I'm going to take one of these screws, and you'll notice I can push it through, and then I can spin the gear nicely. Once I've done that, I want to put a little bit of glue on the back to anchor this screw, and I want to make sure I leave it really, really, really loose. So I'm just going to put a dot of glue on the nut. You can use thread locker if you have some. And I'm just going to put this nut on very loosely. Make sure I've got a little space between the bottom of the nut and the wood, and that my piece is spinning happily. And I'm going to repeat that for these other 2 gears here. If you run into one that you can't just push through, you can use your screwdriver to screw it through the wood. But again, it's all about making sure these spin really, really loose. So I'm going to put this here. Put another drop of glue on it. If you put too much glue on it, it will ooze up through the hole. So you want to make sure as you're doing this, you're going back and making sure they continue to spin after you have put the nuts on them, and that they're really loose. Now this one's tight. I'm going to actually take my screwdriver and see if I can back it up a hint to make it loose. And again, I'm going to put a little drop of glue here. And put this nut on like so. And that's spinning nicely, and that's spinning nicely. Now to get this done, easiest way to do it is I'm going to start by putting this on upside down, and then I'm going to move this screw and flip it over. But I'm going to start with it upside down just so you can see how the pieces will spin once we've got it built, as we build the upper layers of our coaster. So I'm going to run this like this and set this on top, and you'll notice now if I spin the middle gear, all of the outer gears spin. So the next layer that's going to go in is going to be this layer, and you will notice if I spin this ring, that it spins all of the gears on the inside. So what we're going to do is build a stack of pieces that are glued together to make that spin correctly. So the first layer we're going to add is one of these thick rings like so. And I'm going to take it, and I like putting the glue on the piece away from the coaster, so I'm going to do that here. And I know I have already got some glue that's on the outside edge, and I'm going to wipe it even before I stick it down. So I'm going to stick this down like so. And if the glue had escaped the outside edge, I would use my paper towel to wipe on it, but it doesn't look like it has. Make sure that's lined up nicely. And the next layer that's going to go on is this layer. And again, we're going to be able to spin this and make all of those gears spin through the outside. So it doesn't really matter how you're aligned. We're just going to put this on. And again, this time I'm going to, since this is the smoother surface, I'm going to go ahead and put this on here like so. All the way around the outside. And I'm going to slide this over the top like so. And push down on this. And now I have my really cool coaster pieces together. And so I need to put this screw, move this screw to the top. So I'm going to flip it over and unscrew it from there. Ever so carefully. Make sure my gears are still in the middle. Set this here and through that gear hole and wiggle it all till the gears are spinning smoothly again. And now I'm going to push this back down through the hole the other direction, and it's spinning nicely and coming up through the bottom. So now I'm ready to glue this nut on, or use thread locker on this nut. So a dot of glue there. Allows me to finish assembly of the mechanical part of this kit. I'm going to finish the bottom next, so I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to put some glue on it. Here, and I'm going to flip this over and stick it onto my base like so. Make sure it's all nice and aligned. I'm going to flip it. If I'm using super glue, it dries under pressure, so I'm just going to flip it over and push down to get the glue to dry on those two big surfaces. And now I have my bottom layer on my coaster, and I can put my feet on. We've given you a set of 4 feet here. They are self-stick, but the self-stick does tend to come undone. So we typically put a dot of super glue on each of those holes and put them together thusly. Just like this. And again, I'm always checking to make sure it's still spinning. So I'm getting really close to being done. I'm now ready to build the coaster part of my project. And I need to start with a big ring to be a spacer layer above that nut. So I'm going to flip this back over. And as I did before, I'm going to put the glue on this ring. And then I'm going to flip this over and set it down on my coaster like so. I can't wait to see what fun you guys have had with decorating these coasters. And we now have a top ring. But we're going to add 2 more rings. We need to first add a place to put the acrylic. So we're going to use this thin ring to do it. As I said before, it's a little fragile. Don't squeeze it too much or you will break it. You also don't want to deform it as you use it. So I'm going to put my glue on it and go around with this. The other thing to be aware of is you don't want to put too much glue here because super glue and acrylic don't mix well. If you get super glue on your acrylic, you will damage it permanently. In that case, please reach out to us and we'll help you get a replacement piece of super glue. A replacement piece of acrylic for your coaster. Notice that I haven't deformed this. And so now I have my ring on this and we're ready for the last step. At this point, go wash your hands. Make sure you don't have any super glue on your hands if you're using super glue. And let your coaster dry. Wipe any additional super glue that gooped out there away so that it has a chance to dry. And we'll be ready to put our top layer on our coaster. Now the way we do that is we take our acrylic ring and I'm going to take the bottom off. You can just use a screwdriver or your fingernail to get it started. Then I'm just going to peel the bottom layer off. You don't want fingerprints on your acrylic, especially not the side that's going to go facing down. So I'm going to carefully flip it over, and I'm going to start the other side. This one I'm not going to completely peel, though. On this side, I'm going to make myself a little handle using the paper. So I have an easy way to get it all picked up and dropped into its hole. And once I've got my handle built, like so, I'm going to set it down right there. And now I'm ready to put a bead of glue around the top layer. There are lots of different things I've done to do this. I think it's easier to hold it in my hand than anything else. Because when I don't, I tend to do what I just did, which is drop and get more glue on my ring. But you're just going to put a bead of glue all around, way around that top outside edge. Now once you've got that bead of glue in place, now you can very carefully take your acrylic piece and set it into the circle. If you manage to deform the circle a little bit, you may have to push down some on it. If you really need to push down on it, the easiest way to do it is to place the top ring here and push down using that top ring till it snaps into place. And I'm just using this top ring and gluing it on. And as always, I'm going to go ahead and wipe this outside edge so I don't end up with shiny pieces from the glue sticking out the side. And now that it's in place, I can get rid of my handle. And I have completed building my night sky coaster. Thanks.